Last week, we discussed the manipulation tactics used by the Twin Flames universe leaders to get people to go to such extremes as marry their assigned twin flame and even get gender reassignment surgery. Unfortunately, some people are still devoted to this problematic group. So I thought I'd make a resource for anyone in this group or another high control group who might be questioning the leaders. This video will break down many of the signs that you are in a cult or a high control group. And my goal with this video is to help those people stuck in a group like this, to help you escape it. It is time to open our minds and let the fresh air in. Hi, everyone. Welcome if you're new, and welcome back if you've been here before. Thank you so much for your support on my last video on Saturday about the Twin Flames universe. I really appreciate it. My name is Erin, and I am fascinated by all things cults, true crime, and unique spiritual practices. On Tuesdays, I like to explore a true crime case, and on Saturdays, I take a look at a cult or an extreme religion that I find interesting or problematic. And I'll be giving you a third bonus video on Thursdays this November and December, so stick around for that. And today we have a bonus cult breakdown video. If you're interested in content like this, I hope you consider subscribing. I would absolutely love to have you here. And I'm open to suggestions. I'd love to know what you want to hear more about. So please leave a comment down below and I will take a look at it and do a little research. I also like to recommend a book at the beginning of my videos, and today we have the book Don't You Cry. It's a really good thriller slash mystery. It's about a girl who wakes up one morning and her roommate is just gone. She's disappeared. So she has to try to figure out what happened to her. And there's a lot of just strange things that happen. It's very entertaining. It's a great read. I highly recommend it. Now, before we jump in, I'd like to make a disclaimer. This video is for education purposes only. It is not meant to malign any person or entity from a group, religion, or organization. I'm sharing my opinions based off of resources I've found online, other people's stories, and I'm making observations based off those resources and stories, as well as my own personal experience leaving an online cult. You will find many of the resources in the description of this video. So with that, let's get right into it. If you found this video, you might be curious about how people get sucked into cults or questioning whether or not you're involved in one yourself. I first want to say no one intentionally joins a cult. They join a good thing, as cult expert and victim Mike Vicente has said several times. And that's very true. So if you're here feeling fearful that you're in a cult, please do not blame yourself. Cult leaders use a series of manipulative tactics to not only get people like you into the cult, but to intentionally use these tactics to maintain control over you, your mind, your body, and convince you to do things you might otherwise not do. So if you're here, you're doing a good thing. So, here are some questions to ask yourself if you're worried that you might be involved in a cult or a high control group. Number one, did you find the group when you were in a particularly vulnerable state? Whether you've been dealing with something as serious as a trauma or even just recently moved to a new community or state, perhaps you're dealing with a recent health challenge or a breakup, anything that puts you in a vulnerable state where you are asking questions and seeking solutions, this, unfortunately, makes you a primary target for a cult leader. Perhaps you're feeling bad about yourself or your situation and you're looking for a solution. And this group provided the solution. The group, whether it's the leader or the followers, convince you that if you join their group, take their classes, devote your time and your money to them, that your challenges will be solved. There's usually a hefty price tag on whatever it is they're offering you and a large time commitment as well. They might phrase it as you needing to invest in yourself. And this might calm the alarm bells that otherwise might be ringing in your head. You need to do this for you, right? For your growth, for your success, for your future. This creates the implication in your mind that if you don't invest your time and money into whatever it is this group offers, then you are letting yourself down. They've gotten you to feel shame and guilt if you don't do what they suggest, primed for their ongoing manipulation. So reflect a little bit on that. When you first got into this group, or when your friend first got into whatever group they might be in, were you very vulnerable? Were you seeking a solution? Number 2, love bombing. As they try to sell you their solution to your problem or challenge, whatever it is that's making you feel vulnerable, they will start love bombing you. This could be as over the top accolades that give you a slight red flag, but you're like, well, I'm getting complimented, so I guess it's fine. Maybe they're just nice. Or maybe they're being overly friendly and overly welcoming, making you feel like you found your home. Or it could even be subtle, like, well, you deserve to be happy, or I can tell that you're a sweet soul, or you're so beautiful and your energy is so pure. We'd love to have someone like you be part of our community. However they phrase it, it should feel like they're buttering you up only to have you get burned. And since you've likely been feeling vulnerable, this will make you feel really good. You'll feel like you found a community, found people that understand you and want you to be happy. And that will entice you to make a monetary or time commitment that you might otherwise not make. 3, an us versus them mentality. Anytime you make a change in your life, those closest to you are going to notice that change. Some people may notice it and point it out and say it might not be such a good thing. Perhaps you've had friends or family that actually express to you that they fear you're in a cult or that you've changed and not for the better. Or perhaps you've just had a loved one express a concern to you. And instead of listening to your loved one, you might attack them and then bring it up to your group leader. And they will tell you that those people, those loved ones who are questioning the new you, are actually trying to hinder your growth. The leader will imply or even explicitly say that those people who question what you're doing are actually against you. That perhaps they're the ones that want to manipulate and control you. And that anyone that doesn't want to see you grow in the same way that the group wants to see you grow, they're actually the enemy. They hinder your growth. The leader will most likely encourage you to cut these people off completely. Anyone who questions the leader or their teachings are the enemy, and you should not be engaging with them in any way. It doesn't matter if they're a friend, a family member, or even your spouse or your child. Your loved one may be bringing up completely valid concerns, but if you want to please the cult leader, you have to cut them off at the first sign of questioning. This will isolate you from the outside world and further indoctrinate you with the leader's teachings. 4, collecting collateral. This group or leader has likely created an environment that feels like a safe space to share your deepest desires and darkest secrets. You begin to share or overshare, and this is when the leader begins to collect collateral against you, especially in the online space. This might look like a group Zoom call where you all share your fears or behaviors that you want to change, and then these calls are recorded, and as time goes on, you've shared a lot of details with this group that you might not otherwise share because they've made you feel safe. But this is an intentional tactic being used by the leader. The leader is collecting collateral against you because if you undermine the leader or question them later, then they can threaten to expose these dark secrets. Or if you've shared a trauma or a fear and later the leader asks you to do something that you're uncomfortable with, they may say, well, this is just your trauma coming up to block you from your growth. You've shared so many private details about your life that the fear of them being exposed may make you do things that you wouldn't otherwise do. Or the fear of you letting your trauma hold you back from your growth makes you do these things. This is a form of coercive control. You don't really have a choice in the matter. The leader has threatened you. If you don't make this choice, then I'll expose you. It's the illusion of choice. Instead of you having a real choice, you have to do whatever the leader wants you to do, no matter if intuition is screaming at you to not do it. The bite model is something that we've spoken about on this channel several times, but I wanted to dive a little bit deeper into what that can look like and break down the bite model for you. This is the fifth sign that you're in a cult. It's the B in the bite model. The B stands for behavior control. If you've invested time or money into this group and begin to have a relationship in any capacity with any leader in the group, there will likely be a set of actions they will expect you to take in order to help your personal and spiritual growth. This could look like devoting a lot of time to the group by going to several meditations a week, and surprise, surprise, these sessions all cost money. Or perhaps you're expected to show your devotion to the group by volunteering to clean the space, but you're expected to clean during the early hours in the morning. Or let's say one of your goals in going to this group is losing weight, and the leader might tell you that in order to hold you accountable, you must ask them permission to eat before every meal. Or to show your devotion, if you receive a text from the leader at any time, day or night, you must respond within a certain amount of time. Every behavior control tactic is going to have a threat met with it. Like if you don't complete the task, it means you're giving up on yourself. If you don't stay in the sweat lodge long enough, even though you can't breathe, it means that you aren't mentally strong enough to face your challenges. If you don't shave your head, then you're too attached to your physical being and you'll never reach spiritual enlightenment. If you don't change your gender, then you'll never find your twin flame because your energetic body doesn't match the physical one. Every time you resist the behavior control the leader is trying to force upon you, it is then reframed as if you're giving up on yourself. You're disappointing yourself. And this creates shame around you and the situation. And your natural intuition slowly begins to turn off because you stop listening to that voice that says, "This is wrong. This isn't for me. I don't want to do this." And replace it with a voice that says, "Well, you're just scared. You don't want to live in fear if you're uncomfortable. You need to push through for your own growth. What is the leader going to think of you if you say no? You can't dare go against him because then it means that you're giving up on yourself. And how dare you? How dare you let the leader waste their time on trying to help you if you're not willing to go the extra mile and do everything the leader says?" It's almost like you're brainwashing yourself. The I in the bite model is the sixth sign you're in a cult: isolation and information control. If you've cut off loved ones and family members, you likely feel a bit isolated from the outside world. The leader will do their best to isolate you, not just from people who don't agree with what you're doing, but will also try to control what information you have access to. They might discourage you from searching about them online, and if you did happen to find anything negative, they would claim that those people are just haters who are lying. They may just be disgruntled ex members or just people who aren't enlightened enough to understand what the leader is doing. They will discourage you from exposing yourself to any outside media or information. And if you find bad information, they'll tell you it's fake or just from a naysayer, hashtag fake news. They will deny, deny, deny. They will never take accountability. And if you bring up any concern to the cult leader, they will threaten you with a punishment, or the leader might isolate you within the group, discouraging people from talking to you. And then you might have to work extra hard to get back into the leader's good graces. You'll need to prove yourself worthy to the leader. All that love bombing from the beginning has gone out the window, and now you are left to constantly be seeking approval from the cult leader himself. And if you've been successfully isolated by the leader, you've devoted your time and your money to the group, you've left your job, you've lost all contact with anyone outside the group, you're far less likely to leave. The leader has you trapped. The T in the bite model stands for thought control. So you've already been slowly changing your behaviors and changing your relationships to those around you. So simultaneously, while all of this is happening, the thought control tactic is being used. This might look like you beginning to question the leader or the teachings, and the leader encouraging you to only think positive thoughts. Think law of attraction. You attract what you think and what you believe. So that means that if you think anything negative, you're bringing it on yourself. They want you to stop all negative thinking in its tracks. They may encourage excessive meditation or to try to use thought stopping cliches to pause your critical thinking. If you bring up a valid concern or question, they may say something as simple as, "Well, time heals all," or "Maybe you need to work a little harder on yourself." meaning that you need to put more time into the group to fully heal and understand. And that time usually means you need to put more money into it as well. You'd never be able to debate with the leader because they would always turn it around on you. Well, if you're feeling resistant to this teaching, it must be because of the trauma you shared. Remember, they've collected all this collateral against you, and they're going to start using it against you. The E in the bite model stands for emotional control. Your emotions have been manipulated from the second you were exposed to the group. From the love bombing to the threats of exposure and shunning to the leaders making you feel guilt and shame. The leader may also tell you that certain thoughts and feelings are worse than others, and then you'll shame yourself for having those thoughts or feelings. And the only answer to those bad thoughts and feelings is this group. You have to stay in it if you want to feel good again. You begin feeling unworthy, and only the leader can make you feel worthy again. They may instill fears of what would happen if you left the group. You're trapped there, mentally and perhaps even physically. So, we've efficiently worked our way through the bite model. Now, what happens when the group escalates even more? Well, let's dive into the ninth sign that you're in a cult: community creation. If you hear the word compound or phrases like, let's move together to be in a community with like minded people, then you need to run from this group. Cult leaders love to corral people around them into a single location to further isolate people from their family and loved ones. They will demand their followers devote time and energy and money into building this compound. Some group leaders have even forced husbands to let their wives sleep with the leader to create more pure children. Some will become obsessed with the idea that only their children are truly enlightened and anyone outside the group or organization is evil or bad, and you can only procreate with people within the group. And they promote this idea of having an enlightened baby by making it seem like the only way to have a pure child is to procreate with the leader themselves. So then it leads to incest and really strange family dynamics. The leader might also test their followers to see how far they will go, see how much they can be controlled. Followers moving closer to their cult leaders to be in community with them has almost always led to disaster. Whether it's the Jonestown massacre, where the leader, Jim Jones, convinced almost 1,000 people to take their own life for his cause, or the Branch Davidians, where David Koresh made everyone believe that the government was the enemy and that a war would start against them. 76 of his followers died in the shootout that ensued. So if your leader is encouraging you to move closer to them, this is a cult and it will only lead to disaster. And unfortunately, I've gotten word that followers of the Twin Flames Universe cult have already started moving to be closer to their leaders. So if you're in this group, please get out as soon as possible. Ask yourself, is it really worth losing everything else in your life? 10. Demand to show faithfulness and devotion. Now, this is something that usually happens when the group or the leader begins to feel threatened and lose power. Perhaps people are leaving the group or they're on the verge of being exposed. The leader might insist that their followers prove their devotion to the group by some kind of extreme act or ritual. This could be taking up arms against the government or branding themselves with the initials of the cult leader or a group blowjob. They may force people to put out public testimonials of how great the group is and how incredible the leaders are. Whatever it is probably going to ring loud alarm bells in your head. But because by this point, it's so important to show your leader that you appreciate them and that you are the most devoted to them, you do it, despite everything in you that is screaming you shouldn't. By this time, you are fully indoctrinated. And if the cult leaders are exposed or arrested or even found guilty, you still might not be able to see the truth that this leader is dangerous and you need to get as far away from them as possible. So, those are the top 10 signs that you are in a cult or a high control group. Hopefully, by now, you can see how intentional and dangerous these cult leaders are. If you are questioning at all whether the group you're in is a cult, it most likely is. And I hope that you can take safe steps to escape the group. If someone you love is in a cult, telling them that they're in a cult is not going to get them out, unfortunately. You must educate yourself and ask them leading questions that get their critical thinking alerted again because it is totally shut off. Ask them important questions so that they can come to a conclusion on their own. Like, what is it you really like about the group? You don't feel like morally there's anything wrong with that practice. Questions like that will help get their critical thinking started, even if you already know the answer, like this is wrong. If you ask them, there's not a small part of you that feels like this is inappropriate. Maybe they won't answer right then and there, but hopefully you've planted a seed of critical doubt in their head. If you think your friend or family member who might be in a cult is ready for more reasoning, is able to think critically, then please send them this video, but only if they are already kind of close to coming to the conclusion that they're in a cult themselves. The human mind is capable of so much, but it's also very malleable. And I want to remind everyone that brainwashing, as taboo as it sounds, it's a real thing. And cult victims do not deserve to be blamed or shamed for their involvement in these groups. So when you're speaking with your loved ones or even talking to yourself, be kind, understanding, and gentle. My hope is that with this video, people can escape the cult before they become a perpetrator of bad behavior themselves. Trust me, you don't want to be the next Allison Mack and have your whole career ruined and end up in prison because you did something so vile and terrible because you couldn't get yourself out of this frame of mind and get out of the control your leader had over you. So please let me know down below what you think of this video or if you have anything to add. If you have any suggestions of cults you'd like me to cover, or if you'd like to share your own story, please comment down below or please email your story to erinfinley@gmail.com. That's ERINFINLEIGH@gmail.com. Thank you so much for your time and attention. Please be safe out there and remember, ask questions and think critically. Anyone who doesn't want you to ask questions is someone that should be concerning to you. Thank you very much again. Have a great rest of your week. Goodbye.